It's huge. I mean, I've been in the sport for about 15 years. I joke to a couple of my youngsters on the team. The only reason I've not retired is because I've been waiting for this moment to have a UCI stage race finally be in India is like a huge reason why I've stayed in the sport for so long. There's still a couple other events that I want to do and a couple of events I'd love to see come to India, but this is, right up there on the bucket list for sure. So yeah, super excited that it's here finally. True. I mean, I think it's just cycling is a little different from court sports like badminton and tennis. I mean, there are different challenges to our sport, and I'd say cycling sort of really started in India seriously as a sport probably in the 2010s. So it's relatively young. Whereas if you look at sports like badminton and with Padukone and Bhupatis and all that, this is like stories of the 80s, right? So I think that those sports have had a lot more time to build momentum, and we are sort of a little bit further down in the growth curve. But I think the acceleration the sport is seeing in the last couple of years, the last 5 years, has been, enormous, and from the outside, it may not seem as such, but this is sort of a testament to that. To have this event happen, 4, 5 years after COVID is actually, when you're in the sport, you look at it and you're like, wow, I can't believe that this is happening. So it's a first step. And I think the next couple of years, the next decade is going to see this sport have the same sort of growth trajectory that sports like badminton had in the 80s and tennis had in the 90s. And so yeah, everything in its time. Cycling, like I said, different from court sports in the sense it's a lot more. We needed top top end equipment, which is really expensive. We need access to we need resources like velodromes, which are not as easy to build as a badminton court, for example. But now those resources are coming together. We've got more velodromes coming up in India. Every 3 years, probably not every year. That would be nice, but not every year. Probably every 3 years. And then having an event like this where we get to race on roads, having state level support to be able to close down roads, to be able to race on full gas. That's like the first time we've ever had it. So it's where sort of it's a question not of why is cycling not grown. It's just that where are we on the growth curve, and we're sort of in the early stages. So I think cycling is only going to grow from here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, while this is India's first UCI multi-day stage race, if you look back at the Tour de France, it's in its 125th edition. So the first edition was in 1903. So the Europeans have had 125 editions of a Grand Tour and many other multi-day stages and one-day stage races. So it's like a century and a quarter's worth of getting those repetitions in, right? For their cities, for their little towns. For Pune, it's going to be the first time ever, right? So it's new. It's new for the police. It's new for the highway systems. It's new for every level of putting together this event. It's a first time experience. Even on the official side, the federation has had to upskill a huge amount of officials so that we have enough people to actually officiate this event. And then on the athlete side, 10 years ago, we probably had two athletes who could maybe have the level to start this race. Now this year we had 30 to 40 riders who are fighting for those 12 spots to be on the national team. So that's sort of part of the evolution, and sort of comparing it to races outside. Like I said, just like cycling as a sport is growing in India and we're at the start of the growth curve, the sport and UCI stage racing and all of that. Also, we are just getting our first reps in, and whereas Europe has got 125 years of reps in. So I think it's a matter of time. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's a sort of saying in sport: the racers make the race. Whether a race is happening in Belgium or whether it's in Australia right now, there's Tour Down Under, which is Australia's biggest stage race. That's happening, also a 5-day stage race. They also only have one multi-day stage race at the UCI level. Every country has its challenges. Usually for cycling, unlike indoor sports, we face the elements. So if there was a thunderstorm tomorrow in Pune, cyclists race in that. If it's 40 degrees, we race in that. If it's snowing, we race in that. It's a unique sport in that way. It's quite brutal. So every country, every city has its own challenges that it offers. The main challenges in cycling are weather, terrain, road conditions. In Pune, a lot of the roads were resurfaced, but in Europe, they have certain races where racing on bad roads is the feature of the race, right? So in some sense, Pune could have kept some of the roads, maybe some of the village roads more unpaved, and that would have been a feature of the Pune Grand Tour. But since it's the first time, I think it's good that we are offering riders from outside, smooth roads to race on. Yeah, Pune's challenges. I think for people coming from outside, it might be the weather. The Europeans might find it a little warm because it's winter in Europe right now. I have a couple of friends coming from Belgium. It was like snowing there yesterday, so that might be a challenge for them. We came from Patiala where it was 4 degrees, so it's going to be a challenge for us also. So terrain, weather, roads, but racers make the race. So it's the level of the racers that are racing. In this race, we've got a couple national teams, we've got a couple continental teams, which is the first level of professional in cycling, and then we've got one pro continental team, which is like above continental, which is the first level, and right below the level that does the Tour de France. So there's three levels of professional cycling, and so we've got one pro conti team, and they're absolutely on a different level, and those guys will be putting the remaining 150 guys to the sword. So the racers make the race to a large extent, but yes, Pune does have quite a bit to offer in terms of the rolling terrain, the villages that we're going to be going through. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't ridden some of these roads, and I don't think cyclists have ridden some of these roads because it's the first time they've been paved, so which is pretty cool that it leaves an impact outside of just the sport, that it's pretty cool.
I totally
Yeah.
agree.
So it's interesting, right? I mean, so this is a UCI 2.2 stage race, and yeah, not to get too technical, but each of those twos have a meaning. So the first two is a reference to the fact that it's a multi-day stage race. If it is a one, means it's a one day race. The two means it's multi-day, and the second two refers to the level of the race it is. So you have 2.2, which is a multi-day first level professional. Then you have 2.1, which is sort of the mid level professional. And then you have 2.HC or Pro Tour, which is the guys who ride the Tour de France, right? So this is sort of the first level of professional multi day stage racing, UCI 2.2. It's nice that we have a 2.2, right? If we had a UCI 2.HC or a 2.Pro Tour where you had the best professionals who ride the tour come here, the Indian team wouldn't have a chance, or even the Malaysian national team wouldn't have a chance, or even there's a couple other national teams from Asia coming, some really good pro teams from Asia coming, but they wouldn't stand a chance. So the nice thing is we're starting at the bottom level because it gives Indians an opportunity to experience that first level of racing, So the first edition being a 2.2 is actually a sensible thing because it not just checks off the box of having a UCI multi-day stage race, but also gives Indians an access to it, right? And then eventually, as this race evolves, right, perhaps it stays at 2.2 because it constantly keeps giving younger Indians an opportunity to race with professionals from outside India. But maybe down the line, maybe Pune organizes a 2.HC or a 1.HC where you have pro riders who ride the Tour de France come in, and maybe you have one Indian who's good enough to be at that level. And maybe that race becomes something that becomes a big thing on television. Maybe Indians don't participate in it, but that's sort of, just to give you a little bit of a technical sort of understanding of that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, when I said I was going to retire after this, it was a little bit of a tongue in cheek, but it's definitely one of those things that when you're at the end of your career as an athlete, you want to be part of as many historic things as you can. Because when a sport is growing, yeah, I mean, new things are going to constantly happen. And if I keep waiting for new things to happen, I'll never retire. So for me, it's like I'm also sort of this year I defended my national title for the 10th time. And so for me, it's like if I'm at the top of the sport, might as well hang around for a bit and, experience as many of those new Indian cycling opportunities as possible. I definitely plan to continue way past this race. I just made the selection for the for the Indian national team for the long team for the Commonwealth Games and the Asian Games. So I intend to stay around for a little bit longer, defend my national title for another year, if not more, head back to Belgium, race in Europe for another season. So yeah, retirement's around the corner, but definitely not right after this tour or anything. Two teams here. We've got the Indian national team, which has six of the best elite guys in the country, which I'm a part of. And these are sort of the riders above 26, 27, the veterans. That's when you peak typically in cycling. And then we've got a development team, the under 23s. So we've got a bunch of guys 20 to 23. And I mean, all of these guys on the team are extremely talented. A lot of the guys in the elite team mentor one or two of the athletes on the development team. So it's a natural thing. I mean, a lot of the seniors here mentor younger athletes. Some of them formally coach the younger athletes. But also the system, like the CFI has done a phenomenal job with sort of getting more athletes into the pipeline, and there's a lot more programs that are supported by SAI. Like there's a lot of resources coming from the central government to have year-long camps to develop these athletes on the road, on the track. And so that is something we didn't have 10 years ago because we just didn't have those resources from the government, right? And so now there is that. So there's a year-long camp where, kids are constantly funneled through, the talented ones rise to the top. The ones who don't make it to camp try to get back in, and usually, I try to help a couple of them. Every senior athlete tries to help younger athletes in their development journey. So yeah, I think it's just a natural part of any sport. No different here. I do it a little bit formally also. I run a coaching business on the side. I have got athletes all across the country. As far as young riders go, there's a guy named Akshar Tyagi. He's on the under 23 of the development team. He's a rider who's shown that he can be up there with the elite guys. Um, that's the name that sticks out. He's going to Belgium this summer. He's racing the Asian Championships on the road in 2 weeks' time, which is 2 weeks after this race. So he's the one that pops up in mind. He's young. He's got the talent. He's starting really early. He's got a brilliant group of senior athletes around him mentoring him. So Akshar Tyagi from Delhi.